everyone, and welcome back. We're diving deep today, getting into a guide called Improve Your English at Home.
Cool.
It's full of practical tips to help you boost your language skills, all without leaving your house.
Right on.
We know you all love to learn new things and really push yourselves, which is why we've got some really fun strategies to share today.
I like it.
So get ready to put down those textbooks because we're going beyond those and looking at some really unique methods.
Okay. Like what?
We're talking like changing your phone settings, actually talking to yourself on purpose, and even using techniques that actors use.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah, and what I found really interesting about this guide is that it focuses on creating what they call an English-rich environment.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so it's like creating your own little English-speaking world at home.
That makes sense. So how would someone do that exactly? How can you make your home like, an English-speaking world?
Well, they have some specific ideas, and they talk about, how much time we all spend on our phones.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So they suggest switching the language settings on your device and all your apps.
Ah, clever.
Yeah, so all those hours you're scrolling, you're actually getting a little bit of a lesson in English.
That's true, yeah.
And it's not just your phone. They suggest doing this for social media, YouTube, even your emails. It's really about making English a constant part of your day.
Makes sense, but wouldn't it be kind of hard to just switch your whole phone to English?
Yeah, some people might find that really challenging.
Yeah.
That's why starting small is key.
Right.
So maybe just begin by changing one app to English.
Okay.
Or even just your phone's menu. And then as you get more comfortable, you can gradually increase how much you're exposed to English.
That's a good approach.
Yeah, baby steps, right?
Yeah. What else does this guide suggest?
Well, one of the things they recommend is watching English movies and shows every day.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, right. Sounds pretty enjoyable.
Yeah.
But some people might be thinking, well, isn't that just passive? Am I really learning if I'm just watching TV?
Yeah, that's a good point.
So how can we make watching TV a more active learning experience?
Yeah, you're right. Just passively watching won't really help you improve your English that much.
Right.
You need to actively engage with what you're watching. And that's where subtitles can be really helpful.
Yeah, especially when you're just starting out.
Exactly. Subtitles let you see the words as you hear them, which helps to connect the sounds with the spelling.
Right, right.
And then as you get better, you can challenge yourself by turning the subtitles off.
Yeah. Force yourself to really focus on what you're hearing.
Exactly. It's a good way to train your ears.
Definitely.
Yeah.
What about podcasts and audiobooks?
Oh, those are great too.
Yeah, I feel like they're perfect for people who are busy.
Totally.
You can listen while you're commuting, while you're working out.
Exactly. And, podcasts and audiobooks are really good for getting used to different accents and different ways that people speak.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
You might hear an American podcast and then a British podcast, and you'll start to pick up on those differences.
Yeah, for sure.
Plus, they're also great for expanding your vocabulary and really improving your listening comprehension.
Yeah, you're getting a double dose of learning there.
Absolutely. And the guide specifically mentions a couple podcasts,
Yeah.
BBC Learning English
Okay.
and the American English Podcast, as really good resources for listeners.
Cool. So we've covered a lot of listening so far, but what about reading and writing? What does the guide say about that?
Well, it's not about picking up a giant, heavy textbook.
No, thank goodness.
No, not at all. The key here is little and often.
Okay. Yeah.
Short bursts of reading and writing are way more effective than trying to sit down and study for hours at a time.
I like that, yeah.
So think about things like news articles, blog posts, even just reading social media captions.
Right, it all counts.
Absolutely. And there are lots of places to find beginner-friendly content,
Like where?
like LinkQ, BBC News, and Medium. All great resources.
Oh, cool. I particularly like the idea of keeping a daily journal in English.
Oh, that's a great one.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be anything fancy.
Great.
Just jot down your thoughts and feelings.
Yeah.
It's all about practicing, expressing yourself in writing without stressing about perfect grammar.
That's such a good point.
Yeah.
So speaking of practice, the guide also mentions something called scripting imaginary conversations.
Oh, yeah.
What exactly is that?
So basically, you write out a conversation that you might have in real life.
I see.
Now, imagine you're at a shop.
Yeah.
You can write a dialogue between yourself and the shopkeeper.
Okay, yeah.
Or, at a restaurant with a waiter, or even just chatting with a friend.
I see.
It's a fun way to practice common phrases and just prepare yourself for real-life interactions.
Yeah, that's really practical and creative, too.
It is.
Okay, now let's address the big thing that a lot of English learners are afraid of.
What's that?
Speaking English out loud,
Right.
it can be really scary.
Oh, for sure, especially if you're not used to it.
Right. So does this guide give any tips for practicing speaking when you're alone?
It does. And one of the best techniques they recommend is called shadowing.
Shadowing. What is that?
Okay, so basically you listen to a native English speaker and you try to copy their way of talking.
Okay.
So their rhythm, their intonation, how they pronounce words, you basically become their shadow, hence the name.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so you can shadow YouTube videos, TED Talks, even scenes from movies.
Oh, wow.
It's like having a personal language coach right there in your living room.
That's a cool way to think about it.
And the best part is you can do this while you're doing other things.
Oh, really?
You can shadow while you're walking, cooking, even cleaning.
I like that.
It's the perfect way to multitask.
Yeah, sneak in some extra practice. Are there any other solo speaking techniques that the guide recommends?
They do. And this one might sound a little strange.
Okay, what is it?
Talking to yourself.
Out loud.
Out loud.
I mean, I talk to myself sometimes, but not usually in English.
Uh-huh. I get it. But think of it like this. You're just giving yourself a running commentary on your life.
Yeah, okay.
But in English. So, for example, if you're making breakfast, you could say things like, I'm pouring myself a cup of coffee. What should I eat today?
Okay.
I think I'll have toast and eggs. You know, just describing what you're doing.
I can see how that would be helpful.
Yeah, you're practicing your fluency and getting comfortable with just speaking out loud.
And I guess you don't have to worry about anyone judging you.
Exactly. No pressure.
So, talk to yourself, check. What else?
Another good tip is to record yourself speaking
Okay.
and then listen back to the recording.
Oh, that's a good idea.
It's a great way to see how you're doing.
Yeah.
You can listen for any mistakes you might be making, whether it's pronunciation or grammar.
Right.
And you can also see how much progress you've made over time.
Yeah, it's a good way to track your improvement.
Definitely. And it can also help you to notice any bad habits you might have when you speak.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
Like maybe you always say a certain word wrong, or you tend to stumble over a particular grammar structure.
Right.
Hearing yourself speak can help you to identify those things and then work on improving them.
That's really smart. Okay, so now for all the tech-savvy learners out there, the guide also talks about language learning apps. What are some of the best ones they mention?
Oh, there's a ton of them out there.
So many to choose from.
I know, right? The guide highlights a couple of popular ones that are great for making learning fun and engaging.
Fun, that's the key word.
Yes, because if you're not enjoying the process, you're less likely to stick with it.
Exactly. So which apps do they recommend?
They mention Duolingo and Memrise as good examples of what they call gamified learning experiences.
Gamified learning, what does that mean?
So these apps use elements from games, like points, rewards, and challenges to keep you motivated.
Ah, I see.
So instead of feeling like you're studying, it feels more like you're playing a game.
I like that, yeah. It makes it more fun.
Exactly. And the more fun you're having, the more likely you are to keep coming back and keep learning.
Yeah, that makes sense. Any other apps they mention?
They also talk about Anki, which is really popular for vocabulary building.
Okay, yeah.
It uses something called spaced repetition, which basically means it shows you flashcards at specific intervals to help you remember new words better.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And then for anyone who wants to specifically improve their listening skills, they recommend checking out resources from the BDC and VOA.
Those are great.
They have tons of audio content to choose from.
Wow, we've covered so much ground already.
I know, right?
It feels like we've just scratched the surface of what this guide has to offer.
There's a lot more where that came from. But I think it's important to pause here and really emphasize one of the key messages from this part of the guide.
What's that?
Consistency is so much more important than intensity when it comes to learning a language.
So even if I just practice for a little bit each day, it'll be more effective than cramming for hours once a week?
Exactly. Even just 15 minutes a day can make a huge difference if you're consistent. And remember, everyone makes mistakes.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It's all part of the process.
So we shouldn't be afraid of making mistakes.
No way. In fact, they're valuable learning opportunities.
So true.
And most importantly, don't forget to have fun.
Right. It shouldn't feel like a chore.
Exactly. Learning English should be enjoyable. So whether you're watching TV shows, listening to music, playing games, make sure you're having a good time.
It's all about finding what works for you and what you enjoy.
Absolutely.
So have you ever had any funny or memorable experiences while learning English?
Oh, so many. It's hard to pick just one. How about you?
Oh, absolutely. I'll never forget the time I was in France and tried to order chicken at a restaurant,
Okay.
but I accidentally said kitchen instead.
Oh, no.
The waiter was so confused.
I can
It
imagine.
was so embarrassing at the time, but now I can laugh about it.
Yeah. Those kinds of moments are the best, even if they're a little cringeworthy at the time. Yeah, it just shows that you can learn even from those awkward moments.
Totally. And those little mistakes often help us remember new words even better, right?
Exactly. It's like they stick in your brain because of the embarrassing situation. But speaking of memorable moments, I really liked how this guide stresses having fun while you're learning.
Yeah, me too. It's so nice to see a resource that actually encourages you to enjoy yourself and like explore things you're interested in English.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that learning a language doesn't have to be boring.
Right. It's not just about memorizing grammar rules and vocabulary lists.
It's about seeing it as a chance to grow and learn new things about yourself and the world.
I totally agree. But like, isn't there a risk that we might get sidetracked if we focus too much on the fun part?
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Like, how can we make sure we're actually making progress and not just passively absorbing the language?
That's a great question. I think it's about finding that balance,
Yeah.
between enjoying yourself and really actively engaging with the language.
Okay, so like if I'm watching a TV show, how can I make that more active?
Well, instead of just passively watching, you could try paying close attention to the dialogue.
Okay, yeah.
Maybe jot down some new words you hear, or even try summarizing the plot to a friend in English, of course.
Those are some good ideas. So it's not about avoiding entertainment. It's about like finding ways to actively use it to learn.
Right. And it goes back to what we talked about earlier. Even those small efforts, when you do them consistently, they can really add up over time.
So for someone who's feeling a little overwhelmed by all of this, all these tips and ideas for immersing themselves in English, where should they start?
I would say start with something you genuinely love.
Okay.
Like if you're a big music fan, listen to some English songs, maybe try singing along.
Right.
If you love movies, watch your favorite films in English, maybe with subtitles at first. The point is to make it feel easy and fun.
So it's about finding ways to fit English into your life in a way that feels natural, not forced.
Exactly. And don't forget that learning a language is a journey, not a race.
Yeah.
You don't have to be perfect right away.
Right.
So experiment, find what works for you, and celebrate your progress along the way.
Speaking of journeys, one thing that really struck me about this guide is how its ideas like go beyond just language learning.
Oh, totally.
It's about like learning any new skill.
Yeah, these concepts like immersing yourself in something, practicing regularly, and finding ways to enjoy the process, they apply to anything you want to learn.
So for example, if someone wanted to learn photography, they could, immerse themselves in that world by looking at famous photographers' work.
Absolutely.
Practice taking pictures every day, and most importantly, find ways to have fun with it.
Right. It's about creating that environment where you're constantly learning, surrounding yourself with the tools and inspiration you need.
So it doesn't matter if it's learning a language, picking up an instrument, or even becoming a better cook.
The ideas in this guide can help you succeed.
I also really appreciate how the guide emphasizes having a growth mindset.
Yeah, that's so important.
Embracing challenges and seeing mistakes as opportunities to learn, that's how we grow in any area of life.
It's about focusing on the process rather than the end goal, recognizing that every step you take, even the small ones, they all move you forward.
And don't forget the power of community.
Oh, that's a good one.
Like connecting with other people who are learning the same thing could be so helpful.
It can be really motivating for sure.
Yeah, it gives you that support system, that encouragement, and you can learn from each other's experiences too.
Definitely. Whether it's joining a language exchange group, attending workshops, or just talking to other people who are passionate about the same thing you are.
Yeah, that sense of community can really enhance your learning experience.
It's about creating a space where you feel comfortable asking questions, sharing your struggles, and celebrating your successes.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I know you had one final thought-provoking point you wanted to share with our listener.
Oh, yeah. Something that kind of builds on everything we've talked about today.
Yeah.
Something that wasn't specifically mentioned in the guide, but it's really connected to it.
I'm intrigued. What is it?
Well, think about how the idea of surrounding yourself can go beyond just your physical space, like your home or your classroom.
Okay, interesting. How so?
Well, we live in a world where we're constantly online,
True.
and we're constantly surrounded by information and stimuli from the internet.
Yeah.
But the thing is, we have the power to choose what we see and hear online. We can actually curate our digital environment.
That's true. We can choose who we follow on social media, what channels we subscribe to on YouTube, what online communities we join.
Exactly. So by being mindful of what we're consuming online, we can create a virtual space that supports our learning journey.
I like that. It's like building a personalized learning environment that you can access anytime, anywhere.
Right. And it's a powerful way to expand your knowledge, see different perspectives, and stay motivated to keep learning.
So to sum up what we've talked about today, the principles we've discussed, they're not just limited to learning English. They apply to any area of life where you want to improve and grow as a person.
So whether you're trying out a new hobby, developing a skill for your career, or just learning more about something that interests you,
remember to embrace the power of immersing yourself in it, practicing regularly, and of course, finding ways to enjoy the process.
And don't forget about your digital space. Surround yourself with positive and inspiring content online. Connect with other people who share your interests.
Make learning a part of your everyday online experience.
I think we've given our listener a lot to think about today.
We have. We started with this deep dive into improve your English at home, but we've really gone beyond that, haven't we?
We have. We've talked about learning, about personal growth, about creating a supportive environment for yourself, both in the real world and online.
And as we wrap up this part of the episode, I know you have one last thought you wanted to share.
I do. I was thinking, what if we looked at our lives like a big choose-your-own-adventure book?
Oh, okay, tell me more.
Well, like each day, we have all these chances to learn new things, grow, and try out new paths.
Yeah, I love that analogy. It really makes you feel like you're in control of your own learning.
Exactly. And just like in those choose-your-own-adventure books, the choices we make, they shape how our story unfolds.
So like if I want to get better at English, I can choose to turn to page 10, immerse myself in English TV and movies, or turn to page 25 and join a language exchange group.
Exactly. And each choice opens up new possibilities and leads you down a different path of learning and growth.
It's so cool to think that we're not stuck with a pre-written story, We can actually write our own learning adventures.
And even if you, trip up or make a wrong turn, you can always flip back a few pages and try something different.
Yeah, there's no pressure to be perfect.
Right. And there's no one right way to learn.
That's a good reminder.
So that's really the beauty of this choose-your-own-adventure approach. It celebrates how everyone learns differently.
I like that.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've given our listener a lot to think about today. We've explored so many practical tips for improving your English at home, from surrounding yourself with the language to using technology and making practice a regular part of your routine.
But even more than that, I hope we've inspired our listener to see learning as this exciting adventure, full of opportunities and the freedom to choose their own path.
Definitely. And we want to encourage everyone listening to step outside of their comfort zone, try new things, embrace those challenges, and celebrate all those little wins along the way.
Because, becoming fluent isn't about reaching a finish line. It's about the journey.
True.
And with some dedication, curiosity, and a bit of fun, anyone can achieve their language goals.
To everyone listening out there, we hope you're feeling inspired and ready to continue your English learning journey.
And remember, we're here cheering you on every step of the way.
Thanks for joining us for another deep dive. Until next time, happy learning, everyone.